This workshop is designed to help you to run a PIEW planning session with your leadership team. Please share the presentation with the wider leadership team if you wish to do so. The workshop is designed for a group setting. It's probably best to conduct the workshop with your leadership team before doing so with the entire staff. I would also encourage you to share the presentation with any aspiring or emerging leaders in your school, especially if they are involved in leading the summer programme. I will provide support to those emerging leaders to help them with their leadership journey. By doing so, IPPN hopes to increase leadership capacity in schools. Our collaboration with the Summer Programme project is all about building that leadership capacity for the future. The Summer Programme is a unique opportunity for schools to develop leadership capacity among their staff. The programme itself is a wonderful way to support children with additional needs to enjoy a co-curricular programme of events during what can be a difficult time when the structure of the school day is not available. The experience gained in leading the programme is invaluable, and including it in the leadership portfolio being developed by IPPN, NAPD and IDA is a perfect way to demonstrate leadership potential and expertise when seeking a formal leadership position in a school. Those going for an interview will be able to talk about the content of their leadership portfolio. In other words, about their actual leadership experiences, rather than what they would do if they were appointed. This benefits emerging leaders, school leaders, and children. It benefits school leaders who will have staff asking for opportunities to lead projects. It will also benefit future recruitment processes. This recording is a step-by-step approach to facilitating meetings using transforming meetings and will demonstrate how to run a PIEW planning session using the PIEW Capacity Analysis Planning Framework and transforming meetings. Transforming meetings is a very effective way to engage and collaborate with your leadership team and your staff. I'll explain how you can use it to facilitate a PIEW planning session. Designed by Nancy Klein's Thinking Foundation, Transforming Meetings is a collaborative, solution-focused approach to meetings, promoting active listening, respect, and independent thinking, resulting in more productive, inclusive, innovative, and solution-focused discussions. The Transforming Meetings approach can be applied in various meeting settings within the school, particularly when the objective is to make collective decisions. It can also be used in the classroom, as it is a method of facilitating solution-focused conversations. The quality of everything we do depends on the thinking we do first. And the quality of our thinking depends on how we are treated when we are thinking. Using transforming meetings, we show attention and respect while engaging in solution-focused conversation, using rounds, thinking pairs, discussion, and freshest thinking to ensure that we achieve the core objective of inclusion and equality in terms of meeting participation. Encouraging input from all staff leads to better informed decisions, and when staff feel heard and supported, well-being improves. Listening builds respect and trust. Transforming meetings gives voice to everyone, and we provide a safe setting for discussion, especially with the emotive elements of a discussion topic. If we deal with the emotive issues in an inclusive, collaborative environment, we are much better placed to move on to solution-focused thinking and discussion. With transforming meetings, we set out the meeting agenda as a series of questions. We give voice to all participants using rounds, thinking pairs, freshest thinking rounds, and discussion. There is no A or B, just a round at the end of the meeting to identify any burning issues. These are always dealt with after the meeting or at the next meeting. If issues arise during the meeting, consider them to be a burning issue to be dealt with later. There is no feedback after discussions. We do a freshest thinking round instead. This allows everyone to share their most recent thinking and permits us to change our minds. We always start the meeting with a positive round, and it's good to conclude with a round of appreciation. So how does transforming meetings create the environment in which we can think well? Firstly, we always focus our attention on the person who is speaking by looking at them. Secondly, we never interrupt them. Thirdly, everybody gets a turn. Fourthly, everybody gets equal time to speak. And finally, we put everyone at ease by showing respect and appreciation for each other's thinking. This is not easy and takes lots of practice, but the results are worth the effort. We can use transforming meetings when planning what needs to be prioritized on our PIEW Capacity Analysis Planning Framework. It is best to use this process with the leadership team before moving on to the whole staff. Once the leadership team gets comfortable with the approach, they can help facilitate, which means we can form smaller groups when working with the full staff. PIEW is a very simple concept that supports a strategic approach to the management of change. It's designed to help us to deal with initiative overload, to help us to focus on the most impactful priorities. It's designed to support the school well-being strategy. It helps school leaders to manage expectations. It supports positive communication and relationship building in the school. The IPPN Leadership Support Team designed PIEW because most of us take on too much, move on too quickly, and don't always identify the most important or most impactful priorities for our schools. Research tells us that the embedding phase is often omitted. We move on too soon to the next new priority without fully embedding recent ones. PIEW counteracts the inclination to move on too quickly. As a result, it reduces stress and overwhelm. The model is based on a 5-year cycle of prioritizing, implementing, and embedding change. We undersell ourselves in terms of all that we do in leading our schools. The school improvement plan does not reflect the breadth of change that we manage on an ongoing basis because it just focuses on curriculum development. That's why we encourage you to also use our PIEW chart. The PIEW chart includes all initiatives and projects such as curriculum review, curriculum development, projects like solar panels, school meals, the introduction of a summer programme, a building programme. I could go on and on. Basically anything new that is going to impact on workload. Part of the school wellbeing strategy needs to include some careful consideration and reflection regarding the number of new non-compulsory initiatives and projects that the school engages with in any given year. And as well as being a capacity analysis planning framework that guards against us taking on too many new initiatives, the PIEW planning framework is also a communication tool that fosters stronger relationships, especially with parents making suggestions for change. It helps to manage those conversations and expectations. And it does so in a positive manner while ensuring that we maintain our focus on the agreed school priorities. The P represents the identified priorities. The I is the implementation phase, and the E is the embedding phase. But the key to managing expectations is the W section, which is the weight section. We regard every suggestion as a good idea, but we place every suggestion in the W section. A really powerful strategy is to actually write the suggestion into the W section in front of the parent or the staff member making the suggestion, while showing them our PIEW chart as we explain how it works. They feel respected, listened to, and empowered. You are actively engaging in consultation around school self-evaluation. But the bottom line is that the W in PIEW means wait, not yet. Wait for school self-evaluation or your PIEW planning session. The reality is that most of the ideas and suggestions will never make it to the priorities column. But this approach is collaborative, inclusive, and helps you manage expectations in a way that enhances relationships rather than damaging them. So how do we use transforming meetings to help us generate solution-focused conversation in the school around the most important area to be prioritised for attention in the coming year from the W section? If you are engaging with PIEW for the first time, you will need to backfill the chart as per the slide. Best to do this by simply conducting a brainstorming session with your leadership team to identify any teaching and learning initiatives that have been introduced this year, last year, 2 years ago, and 3 years ago. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it will help you to appreciate how much has been achieved over the last few years. The weight section is fundamental to PIEW. To fill it in for the first time, I suggest conducting a brainstorming session with your leadership team and incorporating everything the group would like to see introduced into the W section on the chart. Don't forget, every idea is a good idea. And remember, when using PIEW in your school, welcome every suggestion made by a parent. Write their suggestion down on the PIEW chart in front of them. You will send them away happier. You have listened, but have made no commitment other than considering it with all other ideas at next year's PIEW planning session, or as part of the school self-evaluation process. We will now go through the PIEW planning workshop that I suggest you use with your leadership team or with the staff. Before we do that, I'll explain how a round works. During a round, everyone gets a set time to respond to a question. The times that I suggest in this recording are only suggestions. You can change them, giving more or less time to the different exercises. One person in the group starts the round and hands over to the next person on their left when they are finished. Each person gets an equal amount of time to respond. It may be 30 seconds, a minute, it could be 2 minutes, depending on the question and the size of the group. No interrupting is allowed. All meeting participants must focus on the speaker by looking at them while they are speaking. No reactions are allowed, other than looking interested in what the speaker has to say, whether you agree with them or not. I start every meeting with an opening round to get everyone involved. For example, what has gone well for you this year in school? I'm going to ask you to pause the recording in a minute so that you can do our first round. Everyone will get 20 seconds to share something that has gone well for them this year in school. Now remember, no interrupting. Keep your eyes on the speaker. The speaker can look wherever they want. It would be helpful if someone used a timer on their phone and holds the phone up to show the speaker that 20 seconds has passed. Okay, pause the recording and complete the round. When you are finished, press play again. Off you go. The next question is a group discussion, and it's a very important question. I will explain how a transforming meeting open group discussion works before I give you the question. Open discussion can be useful after rounds, thinking pairs, and freshest thinking rounds. I find it useful if the group is trying to reach a consensus in terms of a decision. It is important that the question focuses on the solution. Agree how long the discussion will go on for. There's no speaking order and no set time per speaker. The speaker must not be interrupted, but they should indicate when they are finished speaking, thereby allowing someone else to speak. Everyone needs to be mindful of the allocated time and the objective to allow everyone the opportunity to speak and to have equal time to do so. If someone is dominating the discussion, it is best to revert to rounds or thinking pairs. So here is the question. What initiatives are likely to be mandatory next year? So let's give 5 minutes for this discussion and make sure everyone gets to speak. Now pause the recording, hold the discussion. Someone should record the mandatory initiatives that are identified. Press play when you're finished. Off you go. Okay, insert everything that you have identified as being mandatory over the next year into the priorities section on the chart. This is really important. So I'll repeat. Everything that you have identified as being mandatory in your discussion must go into the priorities section, as you have no choice but to do them. You will be directed to do so, probably by circular, so include them in that priorities section. If you've already agreed to take on certain projects, such as a building project or introducing school meals, that should also be inserted into the priorities section now. The next question is around where we consider school capacity. The question is, are we doing too much, too little, or just the right amount. Now I'm going to ask you to pause the recording again in a minute. And I want you to do a round where everyone gets 20 seconds to share their thoughts on whether the school is doing too much, too little, or just the right amount. And don't forget that we're talking about change. We're talking about new projects or new initiatives or a new focus on particular aspects of curriculum development. Again, it would be helpful if someone used a timer on their phone and holds the phone up to show the speaker that 20 seconds has passed. And don't forget, no interrupting. Keep your eyes on the speaker. The speaker can look wherever they want. Okay, pause the recording and complete the round, 20 seconds each. And when you're finished, press play again. Off you go. Next is a thinking pair. Again, we're still focusing on capacity. We use thinking pairs to examine the why behind our viewpoint. So let me explain a thinking pair. Thinking pairs are often used after several rounds. It involves two thinkers getting longer to respond to one of the questions, which most likely has already been discussed in a round. I often get participants to consider the why behind their initial thought processes. I push a little harder and introduce some accountability for the initial thinking through the thinking pair. I'd encourage each pair to physically turn the chairs towards each other so that you're actually facing each other. It's also good to move away from the other pairs so that you won't be distracted. Now the rules are the same. Listen attentively and encouragingly by looking at the speaker and not interrupting, even if they are silent for a while. Silence is good. In-depth thinking is often happening. Do not interrupt them. There's no reporting back, but some change their minds during or after the thinking pair. And we capture this thinking through the freshest thinking round that usually follows the thinking pair. So this is the question for the thinking pair. What are your reasons for thinking that we're doing too much, too little, or just the right amount? I'll get you to pause the recording again in a minute so that you can get into pairs. It's a good idea for the pairs, as I said, to move to different parts of the room to minimize distraction. Now, each person gets 2 minutes to speak. So this exercise will take 4 minutes in total. Each pair will need to use the timer on the phone to make sure that each partner gets 2 minutes each. Silence is good. Do not interrupt. If you do, you're interrupting the thinking. Okay, pause the recording now, complete the thinking pair, and press play when finished. Off you go. We usually follow a thinking pair with a freshest thinking round. Some may have changed their minds after the rounds or after the thinking pair. We can also use the freshest thinking round as a way for everyone to give feedback after a number of rounds, thinking pairs, and group discussion. So the question is, what is your freshest thinking on the question of whether we're doing too much, too little, or just the right amount? Pause the recording now and complete the round, and press play when finished. Everyone gets 20 seconds. Off you go. The next question is a group discussion. Given the number of mandatory initiatives that we have identified and written into the priorities section, how many other non-mandatory initiatives can we take on next year? So you're going to discuss this question for 5 minutes. Make sure that everyone gets to speak. Now, if there's 5 in the group, that means that everyone has approximately 1 minute each. So pause the recording, complete the discussion, and press play when finished. Off you go. Once you reach a consensus regarding the number of new initiatives to be taken on, you will need to decide which will be chosen Again, transforming meetings can help us to facilitate an inclusive, collaborative discussion around this. Let's say that you as a leadership team have decided to only take on one non-mandatory initiative or project next year. This is how I suggest that you could conduct the follow-on discussion to identify the priority using transforming meetings. So we do a round so that everybody gets to share their initial thinking. So the first question is, what is your number one choice in terms of a non-mandatory initiative to be prioritised next year? Everyone in the group gets to share their thoughts in relation to this question. I'd give everyone 30 seconds each to share their thinking. So pause the recording, complete the round, and when finished, press play again. Off you go. Next, you do a thinking pair to examine the why behind everyone's thinking. Now, I'd give everyone at least 2 minutes each for this exercise so that they can explain their thinking to their partner. The question is, why is that your number one priority? Pause the recording, complete the thinking pair, and when finished, press play again. Off you go. Next, we do a freshest thinking round. Some may have changed their thinking following the rounds and the thinking pair exercise. So we ask the question again. What's your freshest thinking in terms of your number one priority for next year? Pause the recording, complete the freshest thinking round, and press play when finished. Off you go. Finally, we do a group discussion to reach a consensus. The question we need to discuss is, what one initiative needs to be prioritised next year? You'll need to keep discussing this until you reach agreement in terms of what it will be. We then complete the priorities section. We display the chart and we stick to the plan. All other suggestions and ideas remain in the wait section. Next year, you'll agree on another set of priorities. This year's priorities will move into the next section, which is implementation year 1. The same process continues each year until we complete the embedding phase after 5 years. Now, generally, we only move initiatives or projects related to teaching and learning through the 5-year process. Projects such as emergency works will usually be completed in year 1 and do not need to be carried forward. However, they should always go into the priority section to demonstrate all of the projects that the school has engaged with. I also think it's a good idea to retain and display the charts from the last few years. IPPN has a template progression chart that you can use to display a 5-year progression plan. This is included in the PIEW resource bundle that's available in the Leadership Tools section of the website. As I said earlier, we undersell ourselves in terms of all that we do in our schools. We need to demonstrate all that we do. Display your PIEW chart and show all that you're doing. Remind staff of all that has been achieved. Celebrate your success. That's it. Best of luck with your meetings and with PIEW. Reach out to me if you would like support with any aspect of this recording. Send an email if your query is in relation to PIEW or in relation to transforming meetings to info@ippn.ie. And emerging leaders, or those leading the summer programme, can send an email to Páiric.Clerkin@icloud.com for coaching and mentoring support to help with their leadership journey. Thank you very much.